videos. We are doing Module 4, Lesson 25 problem set. Your objective here is that by the end of this video, you can divide a whole number by a unit fraction. Don't forget that unit fraction means fractions that have a numerator of a 1, like 1/2, 1/3, 1/5. Those are all unit fractions. So let's get started with the first problem in Lesson 25. All right, let's start with 1b. The question is 2 divided by 1/4. And so we're going to go ahead and use a tape diagram. And this tape diagram right here is going to represent 2 wholes because we're dividing up 2 by 1/4. Now, what we'll do here is go ahead and break it up in half by putting a line. Now, what this means is this is technically one whole right here, and here is the second whole. And so this one whole plus one whole obviously gives you the number 2. And now we can answer this first sentence. There are how many fourths in one whole? So here is our one whole right here. And actually, let's do this really quick. Let's go ahead and also add underneath the tape diagram, let's add a number line. So right here is a number line. Right here on my little mark that I'm making, that represents 0. And then this right here in the middle is going to represent one whole. And at the very end of the number line is going to be 2 wholes. And so now we want to go ahead and we want to break up this one whole into, since we're dividing it into fourths, we're going to divide that whole into fourths. That means we have 3 lines. And let's answer this first sentence. There are how many fourths in one whole? So let's only look at this that I'm circling. Here's our whole. How many fourths do I have? Well, there's only 4 pieces right now, so I have 4 fourths. Let's continue over here in the other whole, and let's divide them into fourths. So now let's answer the second sentence. There are how many fourths in 2 wholes? How many fourths do I have altogether in 2 wholes? I have 8 fourths. Now on the number line, let's go ahead and add one extra thing underneath our tape diagram. Every place I put a little, I divided the whole into fourths, I'm going to make a little tick mark, like here in blue. I'm going to go ahead and continue to do the other side as well, because technically we can turn this tape diagram into a number line. And so since now I have 0 all the way up to 2, but we broke them all up into fourths, I can go ahead and label some of those tick marks with a fraction. So the first one after 0 wholes is 1/4. Then we have 2 fourths. Then we have 3 fourths. And then this one whole right here is going to be the fraction 4 fourths. So I'll write it underneath it. And then we'll continue 5 fourths, 6 fourths, 7 fourths, and then 2 wholes is the same, 7 fourths, not 7/8. And then the 2 wholes is going to be 8 fourths. So here we're proving that 2 wholes is actually 8 fourths, and each, think of a candy bar, you have 2 whole candy bars, you broke them up into fourths. How many pieces do you have? Well, you're going to have 8. To moving over here to this question, it says if 2 is 1/4, what is the whole? So that what is the whole means what's the number up on top. So we're going to pretend that this is the whole right here, which we're asked what is the whole, so we don't know. So we're going to put a little question mark right here. But we do know that they're saying if 2 is, or if 2 is equal to 1/4, that means our tape diagram needs to be broken up into fourths. And here is technically 1/4 right here. If they're saying if 2 is 1/4, so that means if this little piece right here represents the whole number 2, then we can figure out altogether what these 4 pieces would total, which means each piece is going to have the number 2 in it. So 2 times 4 would give us 8. So the whole is 8. All right, let's go ahead and do D right now. D says 3 divided by 1/5. So let's go ahead and do our tape diagram. Make it a little bit longer this time. And then we are going to say this whole tape diagram represents 3. And so now I want to take my tape diagram and underneath it make a number line. So we're starting at 0 and we're ending at 3. Now let's put some benchmark numbers. Those are the whole numbers, like 1 whole and 2 wholes. So that means we have to take this 3 whole tape diagram right here and break it up into 3 holes. So we're going to put a line right here and a line right there. So now we can label our number line underneath it. That up to this mark, that's 1 hole, and up to the next mark is 2 holes. And so now we can go ahead and probably answer this first sentence. There are how many fifths in 1 hole? So we're looking at this 1 hole right here. How many fifths are there? We're going to go ahead and divide it into 5 equal pieces. That means you need to do 4 lines. And underneath, right here on our number line, wherever you drew a line in the tape diagram, you're going to match it up with a tick mark. So now we can kind of show that this tape diagram, this little piece, this 1 hole, was now broken up into fifths. Well, how many fifths are there? There are 5 fifths. Same thing with the second hole right here. This is our second hole. We break them up into fifths. That means 4 lines. We do the same with the number line as well to match it up. And so think about it, okay, in 2 holes, how many fifths do we have, or how many pieces do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 fifths. So now we continue the same pattern. Let's do 4 more lines in the last hole. Do it on the number line as well. And now we're showing that how many fifths are in 3 holes. Well, you count all those little pieces that you have, not the lines, count the actual pieces, and you're going to have 15 fifths or 15 pieces. So if you took 3 whole candy bars and each candy bar you broke them up into fifths, you would actually get 15 pieces. So that's the answer to the division problem. So let's go ahead and go over to this next this right here, this next problem. If 3 is 1/5, what is the whole? So remember that what is the whole kind of means we have to work backwards. So technically this is our whole, and we don't know what the whole is because they're asking us that question, what is the whole? But we do know that they're saying if 3 is 1/5, so that means we have to take our tape diagram and break it up into fifths because that fraction, that denominator of 5 tells us we need to do fifths. And they're saying, okay, here's our 1/5 as a fraction right now. They're saying if 3 equals 1/5, so this box right here, which technically is a fifth, this is our box. That's the number 3 is going to go into it. So that means all the other boxes will have 3. So the whole is 3 times 5, because there's 5 fifths right here. There's 5 boxes. And so I get 15 as the whole. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do 2. And they want us to divide without doing any pictures. And then we want to multiply to check. So let's think. Think this through. We're going to think out loud a lot. We have 5 candy bars and we broke them all into halves. Okay, so let's start with the first whole candy bar. If you broke that candy bar in half, you would have 2 pieces. If you broke 2 candy bars in half, you would have 4 pieces. If you broke 3 candy bars in half, you would have 6 pieces. So if we break 5 candy bars, all of them in halves, how many pieces or how many halves would we have? We would have 10. That would be our answer. Now to multiply to check, that means you're going to take your answer, which is technically the quotient, 10. You're going to multiply it by 1/2. Now this goes back to some lessons that we did previously. If you have 10 times 1/2, that's like 1/2 plus 1/2 10 times, you're going to get the fraction 10 over 2, which you should remember 10 over 2 is also equal to a division sentence of 10 divided by 2, which then would give you your answer, which then this 5 matches the dividend of the 5 up right there. That means we got the answer correct. All right, let's go on to B. Same thing. 3, divide them in half. 3 crackers, they're all divided into halves. You break up each cracker into halves. How many do you have? Or how many halves do you have? Or how many pieces do you have? Well, you're going to have 6. So we're going to check 6 times 1/2 also equals 6 over 2, or 6 halves, which as a division sentence also means 6 divided by 2, which gives us 6 divided by 2 gives us 3, which matches our dividend in the problem. All right. Hopefully you're seeing some patterns. I'll explain on the next one what the pattern is. So now we got on this one 4 divided by 1/5. So think of it. You had 1 cracker and you divide them up by fifths. Well, how many pieces would you have? You would have 5 pieces. If you had 2 crackers and you all broke them up into fifths, the first cracker would be 5 pieces, the second cracker would be 5 pieces, so then you have 10 pieces. So hopefully you're seeing, oh, I know the answer. 4 crackers, divide them into fifths, would give us 20. So, and I'm hoping you're seeing a pattern because this 20 is coming from taking this 4 and multiplying it by this 5 to give us that 20. Look over here. 3 multiplied by that 2 gave us 6. And 5 multiplied by that 2 gave us 10. So that's kind of a pattern to look out for. So let's check to see if 20 is the right answer. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, well, 20 times 1/5, if you were to multiply that, that would give you 20 over 5, 20/5, which also equals 20 divided by 5, which goes in evenly and gives us the answer of 4, which matches the dividend in the problem. Now, let's drop down to G right here. We have 8 divided by 1/3. So we're taking 8 cookies, 8 crackers, whatever objects you want to think of. You're taking 8 of those whole items and breaking them up into thirds. So if we kind of follow the pattern that I just pointed out with the whole number and the denominator, the whole number and the denominator gives us kind of our answer. Think of it as, okay, the first whole we break up into thirds, we're going to have 3 pieces or 3/3. So if you had 8 cookies, let's say 8 cookies or crackers, and you break them all into thirds, 8 times 3 would be 24. And so 24 times 1/3, to check our answer, would be 24 over 3, which is a division sentence, is 24 divided by 3, which goes in evenly and gives you the answer of 8. All right, let's look at this word problem right here, number 3. It says, for an art project, Mrs. Williams is dividing construction paper into fourths. How many fourths can she make from 5 pieces of construction paper? So let's go back and kind of circle, what do we know? Well, we do know that Mrs. Williams is dividing, so I'm going to kind of box that. Dividing paper into fourths. I'm going to go ahead and circle that right there, fourths, and I'm going to go ahead and put the fraction 1/4 above it so I can see that it's an actual fraction in number form. The question says, how many fourths can she make from 5 pieces of construction paper? So she has 5 pieces, 5 whole pieces, and she wants to know how many fourths can she make from that. So if I think about that, she is actually dividing the 5 pieces of construction paper. She's dividing them all equally into fourths. So that's our division expression, 5 divided by 1/4. So let's model that really quick. Let's make this long tape diagram to represent all of the construction paper. Okay, the reason why it's long is because 5 is technically kind of a big number when we're doing tape diagrams, and we want to kind of use our space. And we're going to go ahead and do a little number line at the bottom to show that, okay, here's the tape diagram. It's starting at 0 and it's going all the way to 5. And now with our benchmark numbers, we want to show 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, 4 holes on this number line right here. We want to show that. So that means we got to take our 5 holes and break them up into whole pieces. So here is 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, 4 holes. And so I'm going to go ahead and replicate that on the number line. I'm going to label those. There's my 1 hole. Comes next is 2, 3, and 4. So now let's think about this. We have to take each hole and break them up into fourths. So we need to do 3 lines in the first hole. I'm going to replicate that on the number line. So looking at it right now, I have 4 pieces that I can get out of the first whole construction paper because they're all broken up into fourths. Same thing with the second hole. Break it up into 3 lines and do my same thing on the number line. Continue that pattern on the number line. Continue that pattern on the next hole and on the number line. And then the last thing is to continue that pattern again on the number line. So now you can see I've taken that 5 whole pieces of construction paper. I took each hole and I broke them into fourths. So here's 4 fourths. 2 holes would be 8 fourths. 3 hole construction papers would be 12 fourths. And if you have 4 whole construction papers, there's 16 fourths or 16 pieces. So 5 pieces of whole construction papers, when you break them all up into fourths, will give you 20 pieces or 20 fourths. So there's our answer right there. 20 is our answer. We'll get 20 pieces. And let's go ahead and answer their question. How many fourths can she make from 5 pieces of construction paper? So I'm going to say Mrs. Williams can make 20 fourths from 5 pieces of construction paper. You probably have a lot more room than I do trying to write on an iPad with a kind of a stylus that's not really precise. So I'm going to kind of squeeze it in the best I can, make it legible, so whoever's reading my writing can actually see it. Period. There you go. There's our sentence right there. And let's go down and just do one part of question number 4. They want us to use the chart below to answer the following questions. So I have Donnie's Diner lunch menu. There is food. And then we have 4 different items right here. And then we have the serving size. That means for one person, they'll get 1/3 of a pound of a hamburger. For a pickle, they'll get 1/4 of a pickle. For potato chips, they'll get 1/8 of a bag. For chocolate milk, they'll get 1/2 of a cup. Those are the serving size for one person. So let's look at the question for number 4A. This says, how many hamburgers can Donnie make with 6 pounds of hamburger meat? So a clue right here is how many hamburgers can Donnie make? That's going to give us a clue that our answer is going to be a whole number. We know that he has 6 pounds of hamburger meat that he can make hamburgers out of. And we do know that the clue up in the table that each hamburger consists of 1/3 of a pound. So he's got 6 total pounds. Each hamburger is 1/3 of a pound. We want to know how many hamburgers can he make. So there is our division. We're taking the 6 pounds. Let's go ahead and do that. We're having the 6 pounds of hamburger meat and we're dividing it by 1/3 of a pound. And we want to know how many hamburgers can he make. So following that that pattern that we were doing, 6 divided by 1/3, remember that 6 wholes and that third kind of helped us give us the answer without drawing a model. 6, not divided by 3, but it's actually going to be 6 times 3. That's the little trick. That's the little hint. 6 times 3 would give us the answer of 18. So it looks like he can make 18 hamburgers, but I want to double check that this is correct. So I'm going to check my math. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, well, if 18 is my answer, I'm going to go ahead and multiply it by 1/3. And if I do this correctly, I'm hoping that 6 will be the answer that I get. That's the number that we have in our problem. So 18 times 1/3 is the same thing as 18 over 3, which is the same thing as 18 divided by 3. And then if we don't know, 3 can evenly go into 18, or use your multiplication chart. So 18 divided by 3 does equal 6. So 6 matches the number that's in the problem. So that means our answer of 18 is correct. So let's go ahead and write the answer. 18 hamburgers can be made from 6 pounds of hamburger meat. And like I said, you're probably writing a little bit smaller than me and it's more precise. I'm trying to do the best I can with what I have or what I'm using as a stylus. So there you go. There's our sentence. And that will end our lesson 25 from module 4. And I'll see you on the next lesson, you guys. Take care.